women play a critical role in deepening financial inclusion due to their inclination to savings, investment, and wealth management. This edition of the Islamic Finance Weekly focuses on the role of women in the Islamic fintech ecosystem. Since its phenomenal growth across the globe, Islamic finance has been described as the key tool for driving financial inclusion in nations dominated by Muslims. Today, to lead this conversation with us is the founder of Islamic Fintech Hub in Kenya, Mrs. Wahida Mohamed. Good afternoon, Mrs. Wahida. It's nice having you on the program today.
Good afternoon, Bukola. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. The Islamic finance industry has been described as the alternative source of financing for nations that seek to achieve infrastructural development and embark on ethical-based projects. So how will you describe its evolution as an industry?
Okay, I would say Islamic finance is a veritable source of financing, but as an alternative source of financing, that is something we can debate about. So let's take a walk down the evolution lane. We start in the 6th century when the merchants were doing caravan trade. Then they used some sort of mudaraba contract. This means an investor would give money to fund manager who would then go ahead and do trade, caravan trade. Then from the 6th to 9th century, these merchants started to want to travel, but they didn't want to travel with all the money on them. So what would happen is somebody would give their money to an agent here in Kenya, then get a certificate and travel all the way to Lagos, Nigeria, where they would meet a representative of this agent, present the certificate and get cash. This was in the 6th to 9th century, and they were doing what is called sak or sukuk as we know it today. Many scholars think this was the beginning of the check system used by the Europeans that we also use now. Then the Europeans from the 7th to 13th century, they started adopting this system of sak, and they would do also mudaraba. But unlike the Arabs, many partners would come together to support one contract. This was now crowdfunding. You see, all along, we are just talking about Islamic finance. After that, Islamic finance was used to finance the shipping trade, but in Asia, where merchants would give money to the captain and his crew, and they would ply the trade across the Indian Ocean, and they would share out the profits. Then after that, we had colonization coming in. This was from now the 18th to 20th century, where Europe colonized almost 70% of the world.
I remember in the report that the colonialism did not allow them to develop Islamic economic system.
Yes, but they still had the chance to think about Islamic economic system. So scholars started thinking and researching and writing about what they now call the alternative economic system. This is when we now hear Islamic finance being referred to as the alternative, and the system that was brought by the Europeans as the conventional one. Come to 20th century, colonization started to fade away, and then banks started to open up Islamic banks. The first was Al Rajhi Bank in 1957. Today it is one of the largest banks in the world. Go all the way down to 1999, that is in the 20th century. We have the Dow Jones Islamic Market Index that was unveiled. Now we're in the 21st century. Today we have 1,400 Islamic financial institutions operating.
1,400 Islamic financial institutions.
Yes, operating in 80 countries. And by 2015, we had 105 fintech operating in the Middle East and North Africa region. In fact, we have one from Africa that is very well known. It's called Obamba. It's financing, it has won many awards, and it's financing SMEs.
Thank you very much for your perspective on the history of Islamic finance. Yes, I remember that Islamic finance was introduced in the era of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. So now let's look at the role women play in driving financial activities because of their ability to save and also support families and the remarkable roles they play in leadership. What opportunities are available for women in the Islamic finance industry?
Okay, for me, when you ask this question, I really would like to think first, what does the Islamic finance industry offer women in its current form? Because you see, women are largely marginalized, they're poor, they have less education, less access to property ownership. less access to mobile phone usage. So does the Islamic finance industry in its current form serve the needs of these women? Is it enough to give a woman a savings and loans product and leave it just there? I would. And then my question is, are there Islamic financial institutions that are offering this whole package to women? And then we can start talking about what they can gain from the industry. If you look at it, maybe you'll find very few banks that are doing that, if there are any. But banks, banks have this problem that they are male dominated, especially here in sub-Saharan Africa. When you think about the Islamic financial institutions, the board membership is usually headed by men who make strategic decisions about women's financial products and how they are going to use them. And because of all these complex problems that women have, they tend to keep them at the base of the pyramid. So we need financial institutions that will not only offer micro savings and micro credits, but those ones that will also give training and mentorship, give add-on services like healthcare service to the women, help them to jump the hurdle of adoption of digital services. When we have such an institution, then we can talk about the role these institutions play on enabling women achieve their financial independence in this world. Until then, we cannot, because they don't exist.
Yes, Mrs. Wahida, indeed, this call for gender inclusion in the Islamic finance institution, as there is a key need for women to be involved in the Islamic finance knowledge. What role can fintech play in deepening Islamic finance in developing economies like Nigeria? Do you have examples of how this has been achieved in other climes?
This is a very interesting question. And it's interesting that you talk of Nigeria. And in many ways, I would compare Nigeria as the Malaysia of our continent, insofar as financial services and markets is concerned. Now, let's compare in Nigeria to Malaysia according to the following indicators. Let's look at the IT infrastructure of Nigeria and Malaysia, mobile penetration, population, the number of people under the age of 50. Let's look at government support and how it's enabling Islamic finance in Nigeria and Malaysia. And then finally, let's look at the stakeholders who are in both Nigeria and Malaysia. And then we will see how whether Nigeria or other developing countries are at a place where they can benefit from Islamic fintech. So let's start now with Islamic infrastructure first, IT infrastructure. When you look at Malaysia, 4G network is almost universal. The World Economic Forum has ranked it number 32 out of 131 in Network Readiness Index. Let's go to Nigeria. Nigeria has the most vibrant fixed line network in Africa. But then again, there are populations that do not have access to the network. We go to the population. Both countries have half of their populations below the age of 50, which is good so far as fintech is concerned. What about mobile penetration? Malaysia has 144.8% mobile penetration by 2016. But Nigeria is not doing so bad. It has 104 million people who have access to mobile penetration. Let's go to government support and Sharia infrastructure that is in place. In Malaysia, you have a central bank that is currently standardizing all Sharia contracts. You have a Sharia advisory council. You have a court, a Muhammad court, that is specific for disputes for Islamic finance, which means you go to people who are knowledgeable about the subject they're talking about when you have a dispute. Let's come to Nigeria. We have a bank, a central bank has drafted a regulatory document for non-interest bank. That is good. But it also has a requirement for fintech that they will need shareholder capital of $235,000 up to $14 million. There must be very good reason for this, but it also makes the barrier to entry very high. At the same time, when you think about going to court in Nigeria over an Islamic finance dispute, you are going to go to a conventional court where the judge and the staff may not be knowledgeable in Islamic jurisprudence. Let's look at the stakeholders at play in Malaysia. You have Zakat, Hajj, and Islamic cooperatives. You have lawyers. Yeah, you have lawyers, you have accountants, you have headquarters of major Islamic finance organizations in Malaysia, and you have a digital financial hub in Malaysia. Let's go to Nigeria. What do we have? We have two fully fledged, I think, Islamic banks. I've tried to see whether there are any more, but I could only see
Jais Bank and Taj Bank.
And Taj Bank, which was inaugurated in 2019.
2019.
Yeah, so we're still very far behind. So we don't have that many players that we can say, or that our economies, developing economies, are very ready to embrace fintech so that we can start seeing the benefits of this fintech. But one thing about Nigeria that was expressed in this very forum of IFW, and that was very interesting, was the application of international trade finance concepts to Islamic finance. So there was a proof of concept that was done for the export of cocoa, and that was very interesting. That is something that can really be done from Africa's side. We can place us on the map of fintech.
I hear you clearly, Wahida. Despite the fact that Islamic finance came into Nigeria in 2008 during the global oil financial crisis, and we still have only two full-fledged Islamic finance in Nigeria, Islamic bankings in Nigeria, rather. So, what do you think needs to be done for the growth of Islamic finance in Nigeria, as it is based on non-interest finance? It's not really growing. And what do you think needs to be done?
We need to have the Sharia and the regulatory system that is conducive. You see the way Malaysia has gone? They have a central bank that is fully focused on making sure the regulatory system works for the Islamic finance system. They have a Sharia advisory council that gives one voice. When you look at a country like Kenya, for instance, each bank has its own Sharia advisory committee. So we have different voices, different judgments. You go to one bank, you hear one thing, you go to another one, you hear another. But in Malaysia, they try to streamline everything. We need to follow that route. We need to follow the leaders in this industry.
According to World Editors, which says having more women working in the Islamic banking and finance industry will eventually pull more investment and assets into the industry. So what is your response to this perception?
I say it's true, and it's not will. They already are. We can put some faces behind that statement. For instance, let's start with Rania Al-Nashir. She heads Samba Group in Saudi. This has 66 branches in Saudi, one branch in the UK, one in Dubai, and one in Qatar. She's currently leading a merger of $15.3 billion between Samba and National Commercial Bank to produce the third largest bank in the Persian Gulf. Let's talk about Lubna Olean. She's of the Olean Financing Group. She has earned her group $10 billion and has a presence in 14 different companies. She's also Saudi-based. Let's talk about Sarah Al-Suhaimi. She's of Saudi also, and she's the chairperson of Tadawul, the Saudi Security Stock Exchange. This is one of the largest in the Middle East. She's working to embed this into the global system. Then we can talk of Raya Al-Mazrui. She's the head of Fintech Hub in Dubai, one of the best innovation labs in the world. We can talk of Mirna Suleiman, who has just launched an API, an open API system, which means you can go into this system, test your innovation. She's promoting collaboration between banks and fintech. This is a woman who is doing this. And finally, one of the advisors to the Islamic Development Bank president is Dr. Haya. She's the one who advises on science and technology. So women are really doing a lot of work, although it's not in the forefront like the way men are, but they're really making a change in the industry.
And this brings us to a very important aspect. What role is Islamic Fintech Hub playing in encouraging increased women participation in the non-interest finance industry, for example, in nations like Nigeria?
We actually have two strategies of doing this. The first one, the hub admits startups in cohorts. So we have like 10 startups in the first cohort. Right now we have 3 of them. that are founded by women, 1 is co-founded by a woman, and we have 4 that are co-founded by men. We are looking to make sure that the last one is founded by a woman. So we look for gender balance. The other way we look at it is to increase women's use of fintech products. So we have, like, whenever we look at a startup, we look at what role does it have for women in it. So for instance, the one in Gambia, which we call Sunu Halis, has a product called Anissa. It's a full-fledged package for women. Not only does it offer savings and credit, but it also gives them the training, the mentorship to set up a business, to run through it until it makes sure that they are successful. We have another app called Riada. It's for athletes and sportswomen and teams. It has a particular package for sportswomen. They can access women coaches, women financial advisor, women doctors who understand their ailings through the same app. And then we have every startup. We have Almali that has a program called Taking Up. This one targets the younger generation of women from 12 to 19. It's going to give them tech skills, 21st century tech skills, and then make sure that they have the proper portfolio and the networks to grow in a career in IT should they wish to pursue this. So that is what Islamic Fintech Hub is doing.
I totally agree with you, Mrs. Wahida. Yes, women participation is also key to the Islamic finance, and there should be gender balance in order for the growth of the institution. Thank you very much, Mrs. Wahida Mohamed, for the time. It was nice listening to your intervention as you take us back through the history of Islamic finance and role of women in the non-interest finance and Islamic fintech. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yes, Islamic finance has been in existence for over a decade as an alternative way to support economies. The prospect of Islamic fintech is bright, especially in climes like Nigeria, with enabling policies covering broadband technology and women-focused products that are Sharia compliant. Yes, we can expect a significant boost in the participation of women in the non-interest market in the years to come. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Join us next week for another topic on Islamic finance. For more information on Islamic finance, visit our website, www.kosherng.com. Also, you can engage us on our social media platform showing on the screen. Thank you for watching. Do stay safe and bye for now.